Why? Because as far as we know, there are no words spoken at any point in these Levitical ceremonies. The only time it says the priest says anything is in Leviticus chapter 16, when he lays his hands on the head of the goat and confesses the sins of the people over it. That is the only time it tells us that there are any words uttered in the tabernacle. It is quite possible that all of these things were done in kind of a creepy silence.
Yeah.
Now, that's interesting because we think of this as being a liturgical book, this being Leviticus. And indeed it is. But when we talk about liturgies in Christianity, whether you're talking about the liturgy of Gregory the Great, which is also known as the Mass, used by the Catholics, or whether you're talking about the liturgy of John Chrysostom, which is the liturgy used in Eastern Orthodoxy, these liturgies are walls of words. There are several times a year where the Eastern Orthodox Church actually uses a different liturgy. It's called the Liturgy of Basil, named after Basil of Caesarea. This liturgy is even longer than the liturgy of John Chrysostom. And the liturgies in Eastern Orthodoxy are notoriously long. The running joke is when the priest says, "Let us complete our prayer to the Lord," that means you have another 30 minutes to go. So you have a big contrast between Christianity and Israelite religion. In Christianity, it's very much a religion of the word. This is another thing to differentiate here too. In Israelite religion, beginning much later in the history of the Old Testament, you began getting what were called synagogues. Synagogues is where people congregated to hear the Torah the scrolls of the Old Testament read. There was also distribution of alms, and there was communal singing of songs. So when you talk about a liturgy in the synagogue, it is far closer to what you're thinking about when you say a Christian liturgy. In fact, Eastern Orthodox scholars tell you that the liturgy of the Orthodox Church is patterned not on the temple, but rather on that of the synagogue. And that makes sense because Jesus, for the first 30 years of his life, went to a synagogue on every Sabbath, and as far as we know, made no disruptions. But every single time Christ is depicted in the temple or in the temple precincts, and the temple was the successor to the tabernacle, he's causing some kind of disruption.